Dzień dobry, assalamu alaikum, ciao, konnichiwa, bonjour, hola, good morning, Privet. This is Ken at 10, where we talk all about the property market. How are you? Hope you had a lovely weekend. I certainly did. Went up to Petticoat Lane and Brick Lane. Wow, those places are well worth a visit. If you want something to do, it doesn't cost a lot of money. Get yourself on a tube, get up to Petticoat Lane, have a walk through into Brick Lane and all around. And you get a real sense of the fantastic vibe that is that part of London. How are you? I hope you're good. I hope you had an okay weekend. Here in southwest London, it is kind of raining and a bit grey, but we've got to expect that. It's autumn. Here we are. It's one of those things. I want to talk to you about the market because there's lots of negative sentiment around the market, and that's understandably so. You know, we've got so many things converging, conspiring against us, haven't we, that it almost looks like, you know, will this ever end? You know, we're in the middle of this thing. And I do think that in the end, you can't deny that things have changed. The market has changed and it's tougher out there. What does that mean? Well, it means that buyers and sellers are in a different market. And sometimes buyers will have the upper hand, that advantage, and sometimes they won't. But certainly what we're finding at the moment is there's a balance. We're still getting a large number of viewings every week. That tells us people are looking to buy. We're not getting as many people looking to sell. That tells us the stock levels are going to be lower. So what we've seen is this so far. And what that's meant is that prices have done this. They've just stayed pretty much where they are. Whether that will change over time, who knows? That depends on how far and how high interest rates go. Remember, there's a large element of the market that is cash. There's also a large element that has a fixed rate mortgage already and therefore is not affected. And then there's others that it immediately impacts, particularly in my experience at the moment. What we're finding is buy-to-let investors. But that's not deterring many of those buy-to-let investors from selling. What we're finding is, we had an example just at the weekend where my colleague was showing somebody around a beautiful house that we've looked after for many years for our client who has no intention of selling. And they just come off another rental where their landlord had just decided to sell out of the blue and therefore they had to find elsewhere. And when my colleague said to the lovely ladies that it was likely that this was a long-term let for our client, and he looks for nice people above everything else, really. It's not really just about the money. And so with that, one of them burst out crying, and that set my colleague off, and that set the other one off, and he ended up with three girls blubbering in the room while they just let the property. And that's the level of emotion that this can bring, because it's so tough out there for tenants. I really do. My heart goes out to you if you're looking for accommodation right now, because it's so difficult. Accommodation is very limited in availability, and that's likely to get worse. What the government needs to do is incentivize landlords to buy, not disincentivize them and make them want to sell. And that's the only way we're going to get out of this as far as availability of property is concerned. The private sector, build-to-rent sector, is a fantastic idea and growing, but it's not enough, and it will never be enough. You need private landlords, and the idea we can suddenly get rid of them and that will be okay is just a nonsense, because we need the supply. The supply and demand needs to equalize. We need more landlords to enter the sector so that the price differential is less. If you've got 100 flats on the market and 50 people looking, the supply demand curve is reversed. And so that's what we need, is more landlords into the market. Will that happen anytime soon? Well, it may do. And I'll tell you why. Because the one thing that's happening now is yields are starting to rise, because the scarcity of property and the level of interest rates has meant that virtually every landlord is starting to think about putting their rents up. And at the same time, many landlords are thinking of selling. So the availability of other property for tenants, when they go and look for something else, I'm a landlord's put the rent up, I'm going to look for something else. There is nothing else anywhere near the price point that they're at. So that's a real frustration. It's a growing problem. And in my view, we're on the edge of the biggest housing crisis we've seen for many years, certainly since the 70s. So watch this space. We'll keep you advised on that. One thing you're going to get from us here at James Alexander, you're going to get the truth. So if prices go down, up or sideways, we're going to tell you what's happening here at the coalface, if you will, on the front line. So far, the impact has been minimal because the level of supply has gone down. And although demand has gone down, that's fairly equal. If that changes, we'll let you know. And certainly it may do. Watch this space. But what I think is more likely is we're going to see people sit on their hands and just wait and see, because there's so much turmoil in terms of interest rates, government, so many things. And it will pass. You know, we're in the middle of these things. There's a tendency to think, oh gosh, this is never going to end. just like with COVID. And here we are out the other side and hopefully not going in for another wave. So watch this space. I think things will improve. It will take time. There's not going to be a quick fix. And the days of cheap money are gone. We're not going to see the 0.5% interest rates anymore. They're long gone. There will probably be another interest rate rise in November. And the reason I suggest November is there is no Monetary Policy Committee meeting in October. So it's highly unlikely we'll see rates move between now and then. So again, not financial advice, but it could be a good time to lock down a rate if you're able to do so. So thanks for watching and welcome to another week here at JA. We'll be back at 10 o'clock as every day. Take care, look after yourselves, and if you can, your family and friends. Ciao.